What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. So we had people from out of state stop in with a red Honda Civic. Thank you guys for exhaust work. And the rear muffler assembly's rotted out. 10-year-old exhaust system. They're traveling. We couldn't get him a system fast, so I'm headed to my warehouse in Philadelphia to pick it up. And I'm putting some saddle time in this Prius that I worked on. I don't know this car. I don't work on it. Another shop had their hands in it for some major ABS work, which they screwed up completely. We don't work on those type of issues all the time. After multiple times going back to the shop that she went to with frustration and empty pockets, off to the dealership for a $200 diagnostic, which was basically, they didn't lead her anywhere. They told her to scrap the car and scared the crap out of her. And then she wound up to me. And then after hours of diagnostic time and figuring out what they did wrong and readjusting pedal position sensor, brake light switch, calibrating all the systems, I finally got it. And I drove it home last night. It's been fine. I only live a minute and a half or 3 minutes from my shop. And oh wow, I have that kind of same plum color Dodge Ram also. Anyway, so I'm on my way to Northeast Philly to pick up some parts, and it's perfectly fine. And then when I drove this car, I only drove it into the shop to see what I was dealing with, and every warning light was on the dash. Every system malfunctioned. You still could steer it and you could still brake it. So once the ABS system has a problem and it's disabled, just like an airbag system, if the airbag light's on, the airbags are not going to go off all by themselves. And even if you get in an accident with your airbag light on, your airbags will not explode. So same thing with ABS and traction control. If your warning light's on, that system's completely disabled. So once I thought I was onto the path of, they had the pedal position sensor in wrong completely and way out of spec, and I showed the values of that, I put it in spec and then went for a road test, and then the vehicle actually, when I light braked, basically thought I was on a hard brake, and the car came to almost a screeching halt in traffic and scared the doo-doo out of me. So I'm like, whoa, that's not right. And I had no warning lights and no codes. So then as I was nursing it back to the shop, I brought it back in. I'm like, what did I do wrong? Did I miss something? Back on the scan tool, looking at everything, and I'm like, what are the chances that I saw the brake light switch, but I'm not sure, it didn't have a code for a brake light switch, or say brake light out of spec. You don't get that kind of stuff sometimes. But I saw with my eyes that wasn't right. And I didn't think to move further with it because I really didn't know that it was an issue until late. So then I was like, all right, let me start from scratch. Let me pull the brake light switch out. Once I pulled the brake light switch out, the brake pedal popped all the way up. That shouldn't happen. There's a stop on your brake pedal assembly that stops the brake pedal from rebounding past a certain point. So I'm like, damn, do they have the piston rod assembly adjusted right? All these unanswered questions. So I said, all right, let me reset the brake pedal travel sensor, I believe they call it. I'll call it brake pedal position sensor. And set the parking brake the way that I know that works, which is somebody in the back watching the brake lights and me lightly tapping the brake pedal and getting those brake lights to command. So by their adjustment, it was like a 20% pedal before the brake lights would come on, and this is where the problem came on. The vehicle, even though I was in a slow stop, for some reason or another, it seen the pedal position sensor in a stop and said, whoa, something's wrong, and started to lock up the brakes. So once I got the brake light switch adjusted properly, and the pedal position sensor in spec again, because once it pulled the brake light switch off, guess what? It pulled the brake pedal position sensor out of spec as well. So readjust all that stuff, go back in, recalibrate everything, SAS, latitude sensors, G sensors, all this stuff, and it's been perfect. It's been perfect. I don't know how that she said that they would clear the code and it would be good for a month. But I don't suspect that Marge drives that often. She is a family member of ours, and she lives in Philly, so I get that they don't, want to drive across the bridge and come a long way to get their car fixed. But in this case, it could have saved her a lot of money. Who knows even if these dudes replaced everything that they said, and they sure as shit didn't know what they were doing. But you know what? Sometimes these guys are learning on the job. The same thing with me. Like, I learned a lot about this system. Now I pretty much know it. I don't know the quirks and the bugs, but if I have another problem that's similar to this, now I have more experience with it, and my troubleshooting time and diagnostic time will be cut down way less, because now I know the values that I'm looking for certain things. But it's perfectly fine. Even on light brake, like before, it was like click, 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 click. And I think because the pedal position sensor seen the car and brake, but the brake light switch wasn't on, so it's looking for those values. Some cars won't even start. It'll push to start if it can't read a brake light switch properly. You have to kick the pedal and stomp on it, and then it'll start, or kick it side to side. All right, so I'm off. Thanks for watching, everybody.